Hey fellow golfers, welcome again to Ali's Golf Studio. As promised, let's move on to the next critical factor that I've been introducing in this mental golf game series that will really help you round up a number of aspects to improve your performance and enjoy the game more. This one is on diet, nutrition, healthy eating, fuel for the body. Let me refer you to a critical clip I've done a while back, but is very important for you to look at, even perhaps before this one, and I'm putting a link to it up above as well as in the description below. I will not really repeat very much of that because it's quite thorough and comprehensive, but just highlight a couple of elements that were there and add to that. So you should see these two clips as co-clips, complements to each other, and rounding out the whole set of suggestions on good nutrition, food, water for golf. Let me just start off by picking up from that last clip and mentioning that any exercise of more than 60 minutes requires you to have enough store of carbohydrates and protein and water to sustain, let alone improve performance. Even though golf is a game of moderate intensity given the length of rounds, a good 82 minutes is of such intensity, and therefore the importance of storing and replenishing carbohydrates and protein as you go through the round also, as well as water, keeping yourself hydrated, is really critical. Let me next complement what I just said with some key anxiety triggers that you need to ideally eliminate, certainly minimize, and if possible, certainly avoid it before and during the round. Essentially, I will highlight 7 of these, in no particular order, but all very important things to avoid. The first is caffeine. The second is nicotine. The third is excessive salt. The fourth is sugars. The fifth is alcohol. The sixth is amphetamines. And finally, poor eating habits or poor balanced diet of the nature that I covered in the earlier clip. So to lower your stress, lower your anxiety, enhance your energy, you need to ensure you have both regular eating and better eating, as covered by the earlier clip. So pre-game meals or pre-game snacks, snacks during the round, and meal and snacks afterwards to replenish also your muscle recovery. Essentially, you need about 30 to 35 grams of carbohydrates per hour. So keep that in mind. You don't need to necessarily measure it accurately, as I said in the last clip. It's important to have a balance. You don't necessarily need to count everything, but just ensure that based on your preferences or your mix of foods and snacks, you're getting sufficient carbohydrates to help that energy level. Equally important is to have lean protein rather than fat. And I've given examples of these in the food groups that I covered in the earlier clip, so I won't repeat them here. But a final point to make on this is eat slowly, because you need to digest the food and the snacks properly. Don't rush your meal, don't rush your snacks. Chew on them, eat slowly, help your body to really digest the foods and the carbohydrates, protein intake well. Pre-game, ideally, you should have a proper meal, and one is talking 3 to 4 hours before a game. So if you're doing it first thing in the morning, obviously you're probably having just a small meal and or snacks, but then think about having some good intake the night before. Mentioned that meals should include high amounts of carbohydrates to maximize your glycogen store. And thirdly, you should have some moderate protein for your energy. If you are not able to have a full meal before your round because it is early in the morning, first tea time for example, like I play, then something like 60 minutes before, have a good balanced snack. Again, I've covered some examples in the previous clip, but there's 4 purposes to those snacks. The first is to prevent low blood sugar. The second is to have proper hydration, a point I'll come to next, which is water. The third is to have a positive psychological mental state, because feeling energized and fit will help that. And the fourth is to avoid buildup of plasma insulin that leads to fatigue. Water is really critical to this whole process. So in your pre-game meals and your snacks on the course during the round, really ensure you're properly hydrated. On average, you should have about 100 milliliters of water every hour. So if you think about that, and you have a little bottle of 500 milliliter, if you're carrying that around, that's going to last you the round. But think about what you do pre-round, think about what you do pre-meal, the evening before. Get properly hydrated. Then, don't forget that you also need to replenish your energy, but also for muscle recovery purposes after the round. And again, don't do that 4 hours later. As early as possible after the round, replenish carbohydrates, proteins, and water. If you can do that, you will keep yourself not only fit and rounded, but it'll help your whole energy level. You'll also end up appreciating the round you've had much more. You're not exhausted. And it'll help the build up, particularly if you're playing the next day. If you're playing in a competition that is of several rounds, establish some routine around your eating habits with these factors in mind. Finally, especially in consultation with your doctor or nutritionist or dietitian or your clinical exercise specialist, whichever, identify some supplements that might help you as well, and you might be needing particularly what you're not getting from the food. Vitamin C, could be vitamin D, it could be a multivitamin, it could be calcium and magnesium. Make sure that you're getting enough of those supplements to complement your diet should you need to do so as part of your routine before and after the game. I hope these few critical elements help round up the earlier clip that I've done and that you will see in the links on getting healthy eating for golf. See you on the flip side. I'll get next to fitness for golf. Again, I've done a number of clips which I'll refer to, but do some critical other elements that would be important to highlight as the next clip. As we move on into this mental series, we will start now moving beyond these critical contributory elements to your mental game. So your course management, the effective practice system, nutrition, fitness for golf, into the psychology elements, psychology methods, techniques and processes that will help you round out your preparation and help you sustain solid, good performance, repeatable performance, and as a result, much more enjoyment of the game, of the rounds, of the competition. Cheers.